Every time. A million. I'm ready.
All right, let's pretend we're live, everybody. Let's pretend we're live.
Okay. Hey,
everybody.
What's up, guys? At the same link?
Yeah, it'll be a different.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Serenial Podcast. Every time.
Yep.
I'm ready. Yeah. Okay, we're live, and we're less than 5 minutes later. Like 5 minutes late. Well, oh no, it's a different link now, though.
It
right?
What the?
It's not live for me on the one that we had that we tweeted out to everybody.
That would make sense, though. We can't have the.
Oh, now it is. Wow! Now it is.
So it made a different other one.
There'll be a way to do it.
Okay, and it's not even using our thumbnail. Oh my god, YouTube! What the fuck?
Yeah, it's not even you. The thumbnail's gonna be changed again. Then,
YouTube.
Hey everybody, Serenial Podcast, episode 3.
You're gonna give me a stroke.
Yeah, welcome to.
YouTube problems are us.
Well, I do this.
This
definitely
had nothing to do with it.
I need to complain about this. YouTube, it's saying that I made a scheduled stream, and then I posted it, and then I went and clicked Start Stream in Streamlabs OBS, and then it was select episode 3. It had the thumbnail and everything. I hit click stream, start stream. The stream is nowhere. Makes perfect sense. Thank you, Streamlabs OBS. Sorry. Anyways, Hi, everybody.
We love you, YouTube. We really do. We love you. We want you to get better.
Yes.
We need a YouTube intro. We already had that episode. That was episode 1, but it can be episode 3 again. It seems like it needs to be.
Yeah.
Get your live streaming shit together, YouTube.
It just doesn't like to work.
Yeah, seriously.
This should be easy. It was easy at one point. Actually, they had a pretty decent system going for a little bit. We love you, YouTube. You're live and you have a preview, then you click a button, then you go live. It was a little bit confusing, but you knew what was up.
Right.
Or you could even just do the Twitch thing where you go live and it goes live. Why not do that?
It works that on my XSplit. But when I try to use Streamlabs OBS, it's oh, you know that stream that you made? We're just not going to stream from it. We're just not going to stream
I need to look into that. There must be some setting or something that's just not right.
Allow me to.
Yeah, we got something messed up.
Technical issues are the worst.
Yeah. This is what it is to do technical issues by committee.
What I need to do
That
is
too.
do a
Definitely.
private stream and just see if it streams. Then if it streams, it's fixed.
I mean, we're streaming now. I think it seems pretty fixed. It's just why is it a different stream? This is confusing me.
Yeah, I don't get it.
That has to be a YouTube thing, I feel if the link just keeps on changing.
I feel before, maybe we were live too. And there's no way to tell until it processes sometime later in the future.
Yeah, I don't understand it either.
This is great. But we love this. This is welcome to the Serenial Podcast. My name is Fade Dragontier. Below me is Nadine25. To my left over here is Mega Harv.
Hi.
Happy.
And
on the angle there is Enigmatic Entertainment.
It was good, guys.
Awesome opening that's magically disappeared.
Dude, you should have seen the opening that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Oh man.
We'll get it next time.
Into it, and no one's gonna see it.
One day we won't have technical problems, and we'll be amazing. Until that day, though, just bear with us.
I can't wait till episode 107 where it all works.
At the very least, we'll have a great clip show of Harv's increasing frustration with YouTube's live streaming as we go forward.
Yeah, episode 3, I'm already just fired up about it.
I'm gonna pull out your hair, crap. Oh man, he's wrinkling, he's aging.
And we set up, we had so much set up for this. It was supposed to be the more you plan ahead, the more things can break. Right. Essentially, it's chaos theory, right?
I thought I was a genius. Stream schedule. I YouTube 2 videos. I'm I got this. It will just work. I have faith it will just work.
Plan for the unexpected somehow.
You think I'd know by now? It doesn't work like that.
Oh well, we're still getting our sea legs, so to speak.
Yes, indeed.
This is episode 3. We'll get there.
Anyway,
Hopefully,
we
no
might-
more technical. Next week, definitely no technical issues whatsoever. Next week.
Right, definitely not.
How much money do you bet on that?
Not
Very
Yeah,
much. Like,
seriously.
me and Harb are gonna work this out. Speaking of Nadine, don't forget about that art project. I need
All
that.
right, I won't. We'll get it done.
Got big plans. Big plans. It's gonna be fun.
Wonder how many people are sitting like on that other preview screen, being like, "Where's the podcast?"
I think there were 2, and I think I abandoned them without even saying anything.
I mean,
So
I retweeted out the new link instead because that was
I've retweeted
Yeah.
it as well.
I'm not seeing anyone.
Oh,
man.
God.
The video has 6 likes though. The video that does
Wow.
Yeah.
has 6
that doesn't even exist. It has nothing. Like, thanks, guys.
Yeah, so
Biggest supporters.
yeah. YouTube will see that and be
That's,
like, "Wow, there's so many likes in this video with like 0 time on it."
That doesn't even
someday
exist.
we'll come back to it, and like somebody will be going through like all these streams that are scheduled, and we'll be like, "Oh, wait, okay, I'll stream this now because it has 100 likes." And then YouTube, it'll like completely break YouTube
Oh,
because they're like they have
Video
so many
has
likes,
6
and then they
likes,
streamed, and then like
The video
Yeah.
that does
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll try.
That
I'll
doesn't
take a
even-
look later and see.
It doesn't
if I
even
can
exist.
figure
It
out
has,
what's
has
going on.
nothing. Like, thanks. Biggest supporter.
Anyway, shouldn't we be going on to actual today's topic?
For sure. Anybody want to take over? Or?
rock paper
Well, you're the
scissors.
more special.
Oh,
Don't everybody all jump at me at once. We're talking about emulation and our favorite video game consoles
Yes.
today.
I say ladies first. Go ahead, Nadine.
Go ahead, me. When it comes to like, when it comes to like emulation, I've done a little bit. Like I've emulated a few Game Boy games and stuff like that because they're not exactly easy to get hold of nowadays. And I've done a few like PlayStation 1 and 2 games. If we're on about my favorite like consoles and stuff, clearly that's PC. However, if we're gonna actually go on the console that people usually buy, because I guess in a way they work out financially more affordable for those that don't have a lot of money. Because with games always upgrading and stuff, you always end up having to upgrade your PCs to catch up. So I do enjoy my Nintendo Switch. That's a console that I've got recently. I've always been into Nintendo, so that's always been fun. That's also why I've emulated like Game Boy games in the past. Because I've always enjoyed them and I wanted to replay a lot of the classics. Like I've actually owned them, so I don't feel as bad emulating them. Like,
Fair enough.
Feel you.
Switch is a good console. I had one briefly. I don't have one anymore. But you can emulate Switch.
yeah,
Just
they
saying.
Oh, really?
that's newer one in it though.
They have an emulator out for the Switch? I didn't even know that. How does
Yeah,
it work?
well, I mean, you need a pretty beastly system.
When it comes to emulation, my expertise stops at like the PlayStation 2, honestly. I've never tried anything like past, I guess, what's that, 6th or 7th generation now? I forgot.
Okay.
But I usually would go back to the older systems, honestly, like PlayStation 1, because that's what I grew up playing, or maybe Game Boy Advance, because that's like my favorite handheld console as a child.
Hmm.
But I feel like emulation is so important. I feel like a lot of people miss out on games of their childhood that they completely never knew about, because getting physical cartridges, getting physical discs, that's a problem nowadays. If you look at some games, they're hundreds of dollars? They're collector items at this point because they're no longer in production. So emulation as a whole, I feel like it brings a part of our childhood back to us when we're, growing older, and it shows us things that we didn't really miss. But I mean, what do you guys think about the aspects behind, some people feel like it's, like, how do you feel about it on a moral level? You think like it's a good thing to have, or do you think that we should, be really just railing it like some people do?
I'll jump in there. I think it's
Oh.
morally right to emulate things. And my main argument that I would say for why it is right is video game preservation. So there are games that, like, for example, maybe released in another region, or are out of print, or like could be lost forever. There are games that, for example, Star Fox 2. That's a game that was never released, although Nintendo kept like a real tight grasp on Star Fox 2.
Yeah.
But there's other games that have a similar kind of unreleased status that have leaked over the years and people have gotten to enjoy. So I look at video games as a form of art, like the Mona Lisa. You guys all know what the Mona Lisa looks like?
Yep.
I think
Have you ever actually
one of the ninjas.
have you ever actually been to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa?
Nope.
No.
Not in person.
But you've somewhat, through digital, preservation of that through digital forums, have experienced the Mona Lisa.
Right.
So you know what it is, and it's like culturally relevant to you still. So I would argue that Star Tropics and Master Blaster are similar forms of art to the Mona Lisa, and therefore they should be preserved for future generations to experience. So the foggy point is piracy, right? I definitely feel like we should be paying creators of great works, but at the same time, if there's no other options available, or if it's just sort of, sometimes there's an enhancement aspect to it as well. So for example, if I can play a PlayStation 1 game without having to use an old school television or like some kind of weird connector that I got to buy, I can just sort of play it on an emulator and then enhance the game and play it better than it was ever on its original hardware. Like, you can actually enhance things and make things better than it was originally. Arguably, some people are, very purist about it, and they're like, no, I want it to look, I want it to have that PlayStation 1 look, but it's because of the way modern displays are, like, you're never going to get that. Like, the only way to get the PlayStation 1 look is to have the old scale, like an early 2000s television. So yeah, no, I would say it's moral to emulate. I have a lot of experience on emulation, so I'll let Harv talk about his for a bit before I go off.
Yeah, like there's something I wanted to look up, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But there's like one game in particular that I've heard about for the NES that's like, whatever company made it, like, doesn't exist. Battle of Olympus for the NES. I guess whatever company made that just does not exist anymore. There's like no reprints of it.
Is that like Zelda 2?
Yes, I believe so.
Like, it looks exact. It's basically like a Zelda 2 clone, and I heard about that.
But it's like,
I haven't played it. I've seen
without
videos.
emulation, like, if you don't have the NES cartridge, you're just never going to be able to play it. So like a case like that, like in itself, like, just because that one game doesn't mean like 20 years from now, many other games that, like, cherished games, might just not exist. And how many times do we have to buy the same game over and over again?
The game for me, just off that example, Bahamut Lagoon. It's a Square Enix JRPG on the Super Nintendo from that era of Final Fantasy VI. And the way that I would explain it, it's a mix of Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy Tactics, which is amazing, right? And I wouldn't have been able to experience that because it's a Japanese-only game, but the ROM got onto the internet. Somebody was able to translate and put a translation patch, so now it's playable to English-speaking players through emulation and somewhat gray area of copyright navigation. There's a lot of gray areas of copyright navigation. For example, you can have a Pokemon MMORPG that exists that just doesn't, they just sort of work around the legality of it, and like they provide what they're able to provide, like the infrastructure for the MMO, which is unique. But the assets belong to Game Freak, so they can't use those. So the players themselves have to provide that.
Right.
So it's like just kind of a clever way that they work around that kind of gray area of copyright, because copyright lasts 120 years after the death of the author. So, I create something today, I die tomorrow. 120 years from now, like, it becomes public domain. Until then, like, whoever owns whatever copyright, if there's a copyright on it, like, it goes to whoever. And then but the thing is that keeps getting extended, because every time Disney's copyright on Mickey is up, they just keep it, like, they get it extended for 10 more years and 10 more years, so that their assets don't go into the public domain.
Right.
That's ridiculous. They have a monopoly on, like, just entertainment as a whole. But that it's copyright law. Is that you're saying that's international?
No, well, no. Every country has their own copyright law.
Okay, because I'm about to say that. So that's for Canada or the States.
Probably a
That's why it all
combination of.
That's where it gets
I'm
really
not a
murky,
lawyer.
you know?
I am
Like-
not a lawyer. None of this is legal advice. I do not. I don't even know how accurate it is. It's just my pea brain sized gleaming of what I understand that to be.
Oh, yeah, but that's kind of one of the biggest problems with it is, when you deal with such a wide variety of different countries and whatnot, and they're all going to have their own different laws when it comes to things such as copyright.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, so
hey.
the only reason that I know there's a difference is Canada we have fair dealing, and you guys in the States have fair use. So there is slight differences, I guess. But that being said, can I go back to a YouTube rant real quick?
Sure.
Did you guys? I had to do YouTube taxes. Apparently, if you're a creator outside of United States, you have to pay United States tax.
Wow.
From YouTube revenue. Yeah.
I haven't looked into
Just
it
a
too
tidbit of
deeply
information.
yet, but I heard that Canada has some sort of tax treaty with the States. So long as we fill out the whatever crap they want,
I did it today.
then I guess we don't have
Yeah,
to pay it.
so we got
Otherwise,
3
they're taking
treaties. But
24% of your ad revenue, or your not ad revenue, your
30%.
revenue.
30%.
I read
Actually,
something about that
maybe
recently.
more.
That's kind of ridiculous.
Way
Yeah.
too
So
much.
so we have in Canada. My understanding, there were 3 of them, and you actually have to go sign in, do all your tax stuff, and sign paperwork essentially. And then in Canada we have 3, so you got to actually opt into them and then provide information, a lot of information, a intrusive amount of information to activate that and actually have it go through. From what I can tell, it got approved for me, but I guess I shouldn't be talking about my tax stuff, personal tax stuff on the live stream.
I gotta.
That's
do
probably
that,
not the
though.
best to do.
I forgot.
No, but we have a
It's a
question.
process.
We have a question in the chat though that Fade you might be able to answer actually.
Okay. What's up?
Hi everyone, looks great. I got a question to ask. What is a good example of an ARG? It's for my homework due on Sunday. No cap.
Good example of an ARG. So the one that I kind of resonated with was the whole Ben Drown thing when that was going on. I feel like that, and I mean, of course, there's Marble Hornets and stuff like that. You gotta give nods to that as well. But that, I feel like that's another level.
Pet Scoff is a good one as well. That's more new. It's just recently finished in the past couple of years. There's the Pizza Guys or something. Pizza. That's a weird one. That's actually done by quite a good crew. If you want more professional looking ones, there's also Dad. There's the one that was actually done on Adult Swim. If I can even remember the name of that one. That one was big as well. That was weird. They did a few that all linked together, so that was interesting. ARGs.
What was it? There was some random YouTube channel that was I forget now, but it would tell you how to pronounce certain words. Then it turned into some. I think it ultimately was an ARG or some sort of weird advertisement for something. Can't remember the name of it now.
That would be cool as hell. I don't know what that is, but if you remember, send that to me.
Let me see if I can
awesome.
jamie that up here. 1 second.
Yeah.
There was I do remember one that was just I don't even know if it was an ARG. It was just different sounds and tones. It was 1,000 different YouTube videos, and every one was just a different, unique tone. And it was just a weird, creepy YouTube channel.
I mean, there's also a lot of ARGs though in the actual professional media end of stuff. I mean, there's a massive movie that everyone would know that is basically an original ARG. I mean, even Jurassic Park had an ARG. There was a website that you could go onto and find more detail.
They don't. I don't think they call them ARGs though. I think they call them viral marketing. It's a
viral marketing.
Slight difference.
They are basically ARGs though. The ARGs that had a budget.
Yeah.
And just before we finish up that conversation, I do have one more that's ultimate. The ultimate one that I can't believe nobody else mentioned. SCP.
Is SCP though an ARG? I see that as I guess it is set in sort of our reality, which is the main part of an ARG. It has to be in our reality or going beside our reality. And that's what makes it an ARG. So
Okay.
I guess...
Sorry.
I know a lot about SCPs. My God, I've read a lot of them.
I have no knowledge on this topic.
Oh my god, you guys
gotta.
gotta check out what SCPs are. It's so addictive.
Just play
I've
the game
heard
as
of them,
well.
but I don't know the details like that.
You gotta
Well,
read at
contain-
least 10. Like pick 10 random ones and just read them. Here's what's up, because
Tickle
reading one you
monster.
won't understand. You gotta read at least 10 and then you'll kind of understand what's going on.
Read the Tickle Monster.
Yes, that's
Tickle Monster.
It sounds like some wild stuff. Black Fox is
the
in.
one
He
about the
says
three
he's
teddy
back.
bears
Welcome,
is
Black
good.
Fox.
Wait, the tickle monster. He's like the little goo. He's like the little like
Number
peanut butter
99, I
dude,
believe.
right? He's like a little.
Yeah,
he's like a blob of peanut butter with like a smiley face, and he just wants to hug you. Like
he's
What?
overpowered. He's overpowered actually. He's like related to the god of the SCP. Well, demon god.
But like,
bad
okay,
guy.
and then another SCP could be like walking down a set of stairs that just go
that's
down
the actual
forever.
game. It goes
Yeah, well,
infinitely
Yeah, but like it could be anything. It could be a place or a thing or like an idea. Like
some
it's
of
just
them
like
are,
it's like X-Files, but like
yeah. Some
way
of them
more
are based
creative.
off actual
Sounds
real
crazy,
events
like-
as well.
Damn.
So you've got ones that are basically like gods. You've got one like this Abel and stuff and all that lot involved. You've got SCPs that are basically, oh look, a diamond ring. Oh look, a can of Dr. Pepper. Stuff like that has some weird effects. There's one, they're all also classed, they've just added a new classing as well. So they're all classed on like, if they're safe,
Yes.
dangerous.
They're
all
like
that lot.
Elucid or Keter
They've changed
or
it now. There's quite a few more, but it used to be, yeah, Elucid, Safe, I think was one. But
one of
they've
them is a
added another one.
Garfield monster that's made of lasagna that's trying to kill everybody associated with the Garfield franchise.
What the
Yes,
hell?
That is one of them.
The way that they keep it contained is that Garfield as a franchise has to do well in media. Like the movies can't underperform or anything like that. And like there's something about Jim Davis, like he had, like him himself, the creator of Garfield has special protections as well that
There's
they're like, we need to
even-
make sure that he's,
Yeah.
It's freaking
There's
crazy.
even an AI one. It's interesting. It's
Yeah.
an AI that
There's
is
a cake.
contained Oh yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot of weird SCPs.
There's a
You guys
cake
need
that
to
if you
check
take a
out.
slice of cake, the cake responds the slice of cake.
There's dragons made out of paper, but they're dead. Because that's another classification. I think it's like either neutralized. I think
Dude,
it's
this should have
called.
been honestly. Can we like change the? Did we like put the title of like what this is in the title? Because
No,
like
I'm
we
fine
can
with
just
just
talk
talking
about
about
SCPs for the rest of this, and I'm good.
Emulation to
Died down and now
SCP.
memes.
Me and Faye just going for like 4 hours. Oh, so SCP-10069.
I got a lot of
Ah, yeah.
emulation stuff to talk about though, so like I can get back on track here.
But like before we do that, I just want to mention how that website or that YouTube channel I was talking about is Pronunciation
Yes.
Book, and it was
Okay.
back in like 2013, and they did some sort of weird like cryptic countdown thing to release like some kind of book. Participating in a live art
Okay.
performance
Ah.
called Horse Books too. It was with Horse eBooks. It was like a collaborative thing, but I guess they don't even make pronunciation stuff anymore.
That's the thing with ARGs. At some point, they have an end.
And like I just don't like it when they're trying to sell you something.
That's valid.
Oh, yeah. There's...
A new way of marketing? That's what it sounds like sometimes.
Well,
But-
it used to be a very niche market, and then over the years, it got more popular, especially with like the development of YouTube and other stuff.
Collaborative thing. But I
So
guess they don't even
like
Yeah,
at the moment,
well,
the
make
big thing is
pronunciation
Twitter
stuff anymore.
ARGs, so they're building up on Twitter more. That's the
So
thing with
everyone
ARGs.
used to do
At
them
some
on
point, they
YouTube,
have
now
now
they're
they're moving
moving
more over to Twitter and YouTube, but mainly Twitter.
I just don't like it when.
So
Okay.
don't even ask why I know so much random stuff about this.
I think like I would say the more places that they are, the better. Like the more platforms that it covers, but like I don't know, because then I guess people kind of lose the track. But like the people that are really into it, it depends on how difficult it is, I guess.
I've got.
John Ray just asked updated question. What's the difference between ARG and RPG? And can an ARG be an RPG?
There is a massive difference. To start off with, it has to be in our reality. A lot of RPGs are not in our reality. So that's one of the main key features. If the role-playing game is in our reality, I guess you could try and argue it's an ARG, but an ARG needs to be more mysterious. It's not just you're playing a game that's trying to work out the mysteries answer instead of playing as a character that's trying to do an event in a lot of cases. I mean, there might be a few ARGs, because I mean, some of them are... There was that one, it was a video game that was an ARG for it, and you played as a character in it. But I wouldn't really account that as a proper ARG. That one was definitely more of an advertisement.
Kanye's Quest.
What?
Well, I wouldn't say Kanye Quest was an ARG. That was an RPG for sure.
It was.
Wasn't there like some sort of like weird
shooters.
thing about that?
Was there?
Yo,
I guess
I've never heard of
what
that.
the
That's
hell is
nuts.
it? Let me look that up too. But there was like some. One sec. Kanye Quest. Kanye Quest. AR.
While he's looking up that, like, look
Kanye
at chat. It's
Quest
going like
3030.
everywhere.
Was Kanye Quest created by an actual cult? Reddit asks. A possible ARG.
Keep reading. Oh, I'm in.
I'll
I'm
read
invested.
I'll read this opening thing. You may all remember a lighthearted little RPG that came out in 2013 called Kanye Quest. You may also remember
what's that
the
one?
creepy cult shit that was found in the game a few years later. People seem to have forgotten about this mystery, but every now and then I like to check and see if anything new is discovered. Last week I dug a bit too deep and found some interesting things. Anyway, but I gotta dig in. Well, that's a YouTube video. I'm not gonna watch that.
I've seen this one.
Okay,
I've already
but
watched
yeah, like
and
cult
researched
stuff.
that one. I've
It
watched
sounded
and
just like an
researched that.
Easter egg. Like, I don't know how deep that rabbit hole
No,
would go.
from what I got from the video that I've watched on that one already, what it is basically there was a big bad evil cult in the background that was actually trying to like kill you or recruit you.
Like in the game.
Yep. But
Okay.
someone did check all the files. In no way does it connect to the internet, so there was no way for it to send out your location, your IP, or anything. There was nothing
Right.
in the files
Yeah,
to
so
do
it's
that.
like,
But how they made it in the game, if you searched in the back and stuff, and you kept answering certain ways and doing this and that, like which is the ARG element,
right.
it would have led you to an ending title, which is basically they're either coming to kill you or recruit you.
Oh, okay. That's really cool.
Yeah. This is from someone who watches
So
way
there's-
too much.
So yeah, so there's a specific way that you can play through Kanye Quest that's like a secret kind of like, and the way that people discovered it was through the ARG.
It was loads of puzzles
Yeah.
and stuff. That is another
Yeah.
key feature of an ARG.
That's really
Lots of puzzles are pretty good.
I'm reminded of Grand Theft Auto 5 with that, where they did the whole Chiliad mystery thing, which was quite disappointing. I mean, they eventually kind of delivered, but not like the way that people wanted.
If we're looking at chat though, everyone's like jumping from the ARG stuff to the SCP stuff. So like at the moment.
Oh, we
we've
need to
got
talk about
comment-
SCP more? Is that what's up?
No, so
Bright
Bright
Foxes.
Foxes is on about number SCP-4999, which is actually one I haven't read. Apparently, it's an old middle-aged man that just watches over your deathbed if no one is there. Actually, no, I have read that one. He just sort of like sits there if no one's there.
That
and comforts
sounds
you while you
freaking
pass away.
creepy. Oh my god.
No, it's not creepy. He's actually a nice SCP, if I remember right. He literally is there to support you while you die if you're a lonely person.
Oh man, that's
He's actually a nice one. There's a few nice SCPs, and then there's a few like clearly I'm going to kill you or destroy
Right.
the world SCPs.
They're just anomalous. They're not necessarily harmful.
I mean, there's a cat that's half a cat but still alive.
the.
There's
Yeah,
SCP
it's
games too. Like there's such a community behind it that like there's like Gmod SCP servers where they try to recreate all of these things.
Like
They do role play servers of stuff like that too.
the best thing for SCP games is probably SCP Containment Breach. The game. There's two versions. There's the original one was fully completed, and then there's the newer one where they've updated it more in Unity, and that they're really fun, but they're actually really difficult. And you get introduced to a lot of the SCPs in there because they've got like the files and stuff, so you can read that while you're playing.
Yeah,
I
SCP
mean-
is a fun thing. You guys check it out. Like I feel like it's like we got half the stream just being like, what are these people talking about? They're like passionate about this thing that sounds so like confusing.
We're
Might
just
have to
selling
look at it
SCPs
for
here.
sure.
Yeah.
It's good.
There's loads of YouTube channels on it, and there's loads of like artists that recreate the images.
What
from the
SCP
description.
actually is, if I were to like define it, it's a project in collaborative writing. Like it's a project in writing that only the internet could kind of enable, where everybody can kind of like, I don't know how exactly it's curated. Like it's curated somewhat, but it seems like people can just sort of write whatever they want, and like certain things are canon, certain things aren't canon.
They write whatever you want as an entry, and then they're voted on, and whichever wins becomes that number.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. They had a big issue as well with a Russian or something claiming SCP as copyright. You know, that conversation we were on about earlier, and they had to fight for that.
Yes, I remember hearing about that too. So they, like, essentially somebody tried to like copyright SCP. I don't remember who it was or what actual claim they had for it. I'm not trying to say anybody owns it or doesn't own it. I don't actually know, but I do remember that there was some controversy. Because I think they were trying to make a film or something. I don't know.
No, the guy owned actually none of the resources, and he was claiming that he actually created and owned all of the SCP content, from what I know and read.
Oh, okay.
And that was the issue. He was trying to get money off it when it was a non-profit like project. Like they're not making any money from what I know on it.
Right.
So. But
like you see, like a million SCP like YouTubers, like I assume they're making money.
Yeah, they're making money, but they're not actually basically it's meant to be all free to the public and to the domain, every SCP. But to a point. But he copyrighted the name and I think the website address and stuff. Which is what the issue was from.
I mean, he copyrighted it though.
Yeah, and they disputed it because he copyrighted it in only Russia.
Okay.
And he didn't own anything of it.
Right.
And he was trying to say that he owned all of it.
Well, I mean, somebody came up with the name.
No, like, not just the name. Like, he was trying to claim, I think, the website and stuff as well. I'm not too sure. I would have to read up again it.
Was he hosting the website? Did he design the website? Like, I mean, there's a lot of detail here, right? Like, that I was like, if I were to really get into it, like, I would have to, like, actually research it. But there's just a lot of, like, it's obviously, like, a very complex legal issue. Because it's like this completely new thing where a lot of people are collaborating and putting their own like stuff out there, and if you know it is popular, and other people are, you know, if I write an SCP and create a character in that SCP, YouTubers are going to take that character and use it. As a creator of that character, do I have the right to defend that character, or is it because it's on this public forum? I don't. There's a lot of questions about SCP that I'm not a lawyer. Again, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. I don't know what I'm talking about. But just like ponderances, right? Like,
yeah.
Yo, freaking, let's get back into the emulation now.
Sure.
Fade, I asked you about how you feel about it morally. You said that you feel like it is basically a thing that we all should have, you know? Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with it because it's for video game preservation.
Yeah, so there's a difference between emulation and piracy.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get mixed sometimes.
It feels like there's a really thin line between it that a lot of people really don't know exactly what side of it that they're all on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like what do you guys think about that? Like Nadine, like you want to jump in? What do you think about it from a moral level? You know what I mean?
From a moral level, I think it's perfectly fine if it's definitely for like older generation of consoles and games, because much like Fade said, it needs preserving, people want access, and not everyone can afford to buy the collector's editions or even restore a lot of the items. So even if you got hold of them, and they sometimes, especially like the Game Boys, which are all decaying, they need restoring and stuff. However, with the newer stuff, I'm a bit more dodgy. I wouldn't personally use the Switch emulator because I feel at the moment, because that's more of a current console, that it's a bit of more piracy end.
Yeah.
Whereas if I were using like PS3 and below, I don't feel as bad because that's.
But I really want to play the Project Triangle strategy demo, which is free. It's free. I'm not pirating it. It's free.
Right.
I'm not
Actually,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I mean, we're definitely doing things that I probably like. I don't know if I don't know the legality of actually ripping the ROMs or whatever, but that's a demo on the store, so like maybe that's okay.
Hell, I feel like Nadine said, I feel like if it's for the older consoles, like, you know, Gen 2, 3, 4, like PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, you know, electronics or like everything else, nothing lasts forever. My PlayStation 2, that thing ain't gonna last. I mean, I sold it already, but it was starting to wear down, just like any other old console does. So, you know, video games are a very important aspect of, I mean, my life, and I'm sure the rest of ours as well.
Mhm.
And it's one of the biggest mediums in the entertainment industry. And it is also art. People work for hours and hours and years on end to make these games. And I feel like we should be able to, you know, maybe not, you know, not go rip off like a PS5 game because, you know, it is current. But for these games from when I was like a little kid, like 5 years old, how else am I going to have access to it if I'm not a, you know, multi-millionaire with connections to get access to the physical, you know, items, you know, the consoles, the wires, the setup, the TV. Technology is constantly advancing, so we should be able
wait
to use
120 years
it. It's like
or more.
we have
Might be a
for
bit
copyright, we
terrifying.
have to wait until our grandkids can play it. So I feel like the law comes in sometimes, you know, different countries are going to vary, but I feel like the law comes in a little bit too much when it comes to things like this, because honestly, at the end of the day, it's not hurting anyone because you're not making money probably off a game that you made 30 years ago when you just got into the industry and now you're retired. So why are you fighting? Like, why is there such a big push sometimes from people? You know, if you go on Twitter or you go on different social media sites, sometimes you see people, you know, being, oh, that's theft, and you know you're a horrible person and you're robbing from these corporations and you know they're losing money, and it's like,
Oh man, those poor corporations.
you know, these multi-billion corporations. I think Activision and Blizzard are, you know, or whatever they call themselves now are fine. You know, like,
Well,
I don't
Please
think
sponsor our podcast, Poor Corporations.
Some about that I kind of want to bring up because, like, I think like a perfect example for me about like take the Suikoden series that Konami made. Suikoden's like an RPG series that I rather enjoy, but like the Suikoden team in Konami has been disbanded 4 years. So like even like typically if like a corporation or whatever would make the game available for me to purchase on like a store or whatever, and I wanted it, and I don't have it already, it's okay, maybe I'll buy it. Maybe give me trophy support, a reason to buy the game again. But like anyways,
Yeah.
I'm getting aside at the point, but like if the original like team that made the game does not even exist anymore, like I'm not so concerned about this corporation getting the whatever money it is for that game. It's like it's not. I don't feel like the right people are getting the money in that case. Like once a
Yeah.
game is like used per se, it's like, what's the difference between buying like a used game and pirating? Like yeah,
Exactly.
or emulating. I mean, because like
Yeah.
the original, I have all kinds of used games. More than half my collection are used games, but like the original company isn't getting the money for it. So like, what's like the legal gray area on that? I kind of got off topic.
That was a
there.
thing. I believe that was a thing actually, like at the time with like video stores and like resale shops. Because there are some games that have like anti-resale measures. You know, like the book in Star Tropics.
Right.
So there's like, you know, like you can only basically do that a couple times. A lot of old PC games have like a similar thing where it was like a physical, just like you can't copy this game because it needs to come with this slip of paper with the number on it, right? Just like their simple way of trying to do that, kind of like stop
I
people
remember
from
that
making
was
copies and
Sims
reselling.
too.
So I get it though, like because a lot of things are pirated, like new things that are cool things, right? That should be probably monetarily returned. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna play the hottest new game, you should probably pay for the hottest new game.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you get, I don't know, man. You get a lot of really like kind of crappy games too that are like they trick people. Let's say Cyberpunk as an example.
Oh man.
Right? That's recent. topical,
Yes,
kind
indeed.
of. Like, it's a little bit old now, but like, so let's talk about like piracy and Cyberpunk, right? Like, so obviously they took it off like all kinds of things and like, you know, like giving refunds to everybody. So is that just like a broken thing now in society that like just go ahead, right? Like, or is it, you know, still they put a lot of work into it and they still deserve, like, if people still want to play it, they deserve the money, right? Like, so I don't know.
But like, can you even
Not
get
so
it
much a
on
gray
PS4
area there.
now?
That's
I
just-
know they like pulled it for a while. I don't think it's even still available on PS4. So like, if it's not,
Is it? I
how
don't
else
No,
are you
they
supposed to
pulled
play
it off PS4 and didn't put it back.
Yeah, it should be on there again now.
Not now, not yet. Eventually, maybe.
Oh, man. That's a whole.
Nothing, maybe.
That's one of the biggest video game controversies I've ever like experienced in my life. Honestly, the whole
Right, like, they're
Cyberpunk fiasco.
They're getting sued for not delivering on expectations, or I don't know how that turned out. They were getting sued. I don't know how the trial turned out or if it happened.
You see, I've not
Oh,
even
wow.
played Cyberpunk yet because of these sort of controversial. Like,
Yeah, it's not on
issues.
the PlayStation Store. Wow, that's
It
nuts.
was not horrible on PC. Like, it was like, I mean, not the best game in the world, but like, I played 100 hours and didn't have too many complaints.
I mean, I was
I haven't
intrigued by
tried
it,
it,
but then heard the PS4 version was just a dumpster fire, and then I couldn't get it anymore. So it's like, well, I won't worry about it. But
Like, it did some cool things, but like, it felt unfinished. Like, it felt like they were like way more ambitious than what like actually was in the game.
I might play the
with,
PS5 version, maybe.
like, if they maybe would have delayed it again, it might have
Right.
helped it. But I
they're
mean,
trying to
I don't
meet
know.
a deadline for sure, because people have been hounding them forever now. Because that game's been in production technically for how long? Like 8 years? Not a long time.
Yeah,
7, something like that. They delayed
Yeah,
it 4
and, like,
times already, though. That's the
you know,
problem.
turn into Duke Nukem,
Right.
right? Like, you just release it, I guess, and like try to patch it. But like, I could see what they were doing, man. Like, from an artistic standpoint, like, it would have been really cool to see them like see that fully through. But from a business perspective, I get it. Like, they were super ambitious and like everything's beautiful. The things that work really well. There's just a lot of things that just do not, like, just things that you're like, oh man, this would have been so cool if. And like, you can see like there's hints of like where the developers even thought that maybe.
Yeah.
And just didn't follow through.
When going off what the comments you said, like, if I were gonna call each generation of gaming generation, I would probably say we're in a generation of like early access. Like, they rush games out as early access and be like, "We'll just fix it. We'll fix it. There's patches coming, guys." But there's also this DLC.
Right. Here's 80% of a game that could be a full game, but
Yeah, I mean,
one that I think is handling it all right is Baldur's Gate 3. It is early access, but like, it's good. You can play the multiplayer. It's only the first chapter. But the first chapter is like 20 hours, but like, you could play through it several times and get like different outcomes. And like learn new things every time, because there's no way that you're going to experience the entire game in one playthrough. Like, you have to play through it several different times if you want to sort of see how things can, like, how much. And eventually, as you're playing it, you're going to want to see, like, you're going to be like loading saves to be like, dude, what happens if I choose some, like, a different option or do something differently? Because like, they thought of like everything, man. It's so cool.
Yeah. The thing with early access, like, there's loads of good games that have come out and been successful with early access, such as like Subnautica. That's a game that I really enjoyed, and there's Subnautica Below Zero that's still in early access. That's really good. But then there's ones that just don't admit that they're in early access, come out and say we're a full game, and then they're clearly not. And that's just how a lot of
I found the transition is usually not very like, oh, this is launch day, it's a full game now. It's very much just like this gradual thing, and like, you know, I'll pick up a game in early access and try it in early access, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, I'll check back later. And then, you know, 2 or 3 years later, it's been out for a year, and I come back and I'm like, okay, it's cool, I'm on like patch 5 or whatever. Like, they're actually like, they have a full game and they're fixing things. That doesn't always happen though.
No, that's not what I'm on about. I'm on about
only with the good
like,
ones.
An example being No Man's Sky. It comes out saying it's a full game, but really it's a game that's should have been coming out as early access if they're going to release it that early. Because No Man's Sky was big hype game as well, much like Cyberpunk when it was coming out. It came out, It was a massive flop and disappointment because it had none of the content everyone expected, and it was not very good. When it came to, it got really boring quick.
They hyped it up so much.
And then a year later, there's people playing it and actually enjoying it now because they've added all the features that should have been in the game, and that's what I think a lot of like these big publishers are doing. And they're just not admitting that they're releasing games in early access and saying, "Oh, here's a full game, pay $60 if you're American."
But I mean, as a consumer, you also have to have somewhat of a responsibility to be like, I'm really into this idea that I want to invest into it. Because there are definitely games that I would be like, I want to play this right now. I don't care how broken this game is right now. Like, the concept of this game is exactly what I need in my life. So, like, take my money, let me play the game. You keep doing your thing, release the game when you're going to release the game, but I want to play it now. So, like, early access is good for that, but you got to be able to look at things and be like, look, man, this is not going to turn out, you know?
No,
like,
what I'm saying
like
is
a new developer, and like they only have screenshots. It looks garbage. Like,
what I'm saying is what they're doing is releasing games without a tag saying early access.
Oh.
They're releasing games saying they're full games, but really there should have been games that came out as early access if they're going to bring them out that early, or waited and brought them out with the content then as the full game.
They should. They lack transparency. They just got to be more open and honest.
Lacking content though, like if it's a story-driven game and you like the ending isn't in the game, like I think that's kind of shady and shitty. But like if it's like, the game's out, you can do the narrative, but we're gonna add more guns later down the road.
No, like what I'm on about is like the example I was showing, No Man's Sky. This is like literally the best example of it. Okay. When it came out, it was like, oh, you might see, you might not see. It's thousands of different generated worlds. It goes on for millions and millions of this and that. And when you got on the planet, there's all these cool creatures, atmospheres, all this and that, and you'll be able to do all these crazy things. Really, what you did is you landed on a random planet. Right. There was some really like cool-looking graphics, and then you looked around, and that was it.
Yes.
Done.
Yeah.
And then it was just rinse and repeat, get materials to go to the next planet. But it wasn't a fun rinse and repeat. Now the game is out, you've got different species showing up. So like NPCs are finally added. Another example, Fallout 76.
NPCs?
Yeah. They didn't have any NPCs before in it.
I thought I would have swore there were like creatures and shit in No Man's Sky when it launched.
There was creatures.
I didn't play it.
But I mean, talk like intergalactic species that talk.
Oh, like actual
NPCs, like
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. I get you.
Yeah.
An
example as well, Fallout 76. People complained about that because they literally got rid of the main feature of a Fallout game,
which was the NPCs again.
Yeah. And stuff like that.
Sage, one of our members, Sage Snow, loves Fallout 76. It's like he swears by it. I don't know if he's still playing it. He was playing it for a while. I said that like they patched things and it's like better now, and there are NPCs apparently.
Exactly. Do you see what I mean now? The full game comes out later, like it would if it was a normal early access.
The thing is with Bethesda, if they would have waited and made it better and then released it, it would have been better. But I feel like they needed to release it and then get the feedback from people to know that we need, for whatever stupid reason, that we need NPCs. I picture like everybody on the design. There must have been one dude on the design team that's like, nah, we're gonna make the Fallout MMO and we're gonna make it with. Oh, hear me out, guys. Hear me out. We're gonna make it with no NPCs and no story. All right, guys, let's do this. And then everybody's like, but hold on, boss. Like, maybe we should like rethink that. And he's like, nah, man, that's what we're gonna do. And then they release the game and does crappy. So like, hopefully, like the dude that's above that dude is like, okay, you're fired, man. Like, this dude that was saying that we should put the NPCs in is now in your job, and then the rest of the people are gonna make the game. But
again, Bethesda wasn't transparent in the fact that they were seeking stuff like that. But they should have said it was an early access game. If that's what they're seeking. Because that's what it technically is at that point. If you're seeking that sort of feedback, and it's not small feedback, it's not just like, oh, there's a glitch.
When did we switch from doing beta tests to pre-access? I guess when people figured out they could make money off it.
Yep.
Unfortunately. Did you guys play Fallout 76? Because I have that game. It came with my microphone, actually. Like, it was a freaking sale. So I was like, I'll take it. Yeah, like it was a deal. Like it came with like no joke. I have it in my closet. Like the freaking the code for the PC version. They're like, oh, it's a set. I was like, okay. All I want is the microphone, but no, like the game comes with it. I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. I never bothered like downloading it onto my PC because I had no interest in the game. Anything I heard from it, this is like 2 years ago. I heard it was like a really broken game because I never played any Fallout games really. But I heard 76 was broken. It needed major repairs, so I never really bothered trying it. But I mean, you're saying like it's better now?
Yeah.
I played a little bit. I didn't hate it actually with the NPCs. It was just sort of kind of more serene. Like I was just like walking around. And I had a base and I could build turrets, and like there was the Mothman thing. Like there's this whole Mothman like museum that I'm like, oh, this is cool and creepy. And then other people would show up and like, you know, either make friends or murder, which is always an exciting prospect when like you run into somebody and it's like, ooh, friend or foe. Like, do I shoot you? Like, do I wait for you to shoot me? Like, hold on. Like, are you moving aggressively? Like, those kinds of interactions I kind of enjoy, so I didn't hate Fallout 76 when I played.
I could see that being intriguing. I've never played a Fallout game.
Me neither. That's one of the Western...
But
I never really gotten many RPGs.
New Vegas.
Oh. Did you play Skyrim? Or
nope.
Me?
Any Elder Scrolls? Okay, never mind.
I played Morrowind and I hated it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say it's basically like that, but with
I never played them either. Setting. Almost all my RPGs are like Japanese, like JRPGs. I almost never play Western except for Mass Effect. That's the only like Western RPG that I play, like Americanized kind of game. All the rest.
Oh man, they did with that should have been criminal too with the ending.
What of part 3?
3, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of...
The ending was the same, but it was 3 different colors. Like, you could have the, like, yeah.
It became the biggest meme, like, of that year, basically. 2012, I think.
That's why sometimes I think it's okay to just pirate games, like, just because, like, sometimes game developers say fuck you to us, so, like, we gotta occasionally say fuck you back.
It was still good outside of that, though. Mass Effect 3 was good. Yeah. It just, the ending kind of just made it go...
I didn't play any of the Mass Effect games at all.
Oh, none of them? I heard 2 is really good. All. No, 2 is the best. That's on my top 10 10 RPGs of all time.
Do they actually connect? Like, if I make choices in the first game, does it even friggin' matter in the second or third game what choices I make?
Yeah, your data and everything like that, your character, like, design and everything, all that stuff carries over into the next game. But the only thing is, ultimately, it doesn't really change the end result, you know, like that's why people were angry. All those choices they made at the end of part 3, it was just like, oh, pick this, or this, and it's like, what about the 100 choices I made in other games? You know, it still funneled you into that no matter what you chose. But the rest of it was great except for that ending. Really, I love Mass Effect. I'm waiting for a sequel, honestly. Andromeda was okay. It didn't have the same like kick like Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 did though. I'm waiting. They're remastering. Yeah. The original trilogy remastered comes out.
All I remember about Andromeda is the picture of the person's face, the original model that they did, and it was like the female character, and they look weird.
Andromeda was like a whole spin-off because it didn't even continue from 3, so people didn't like it too much because of that. I wound up playing it, and it was like, all right, really. I'm just waiting for like Mass Effect 4, like to pick up where 3 left off and see what they do with that ending. I mean, if they think of something interesting, I'll try it. I still do like Mass Effect, besides some of the bad choices they made with Part 3 and Andromeda and DLC, which is a whole nother story.
I mean, I don't play many RPGs. I've played a lot, but like it's to do with the fact of time commitment. I'm all right putting a bit of time into a game, but due to like my work life and my life in general, I can't always play 100+ hour games.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong,
that is part of the problem.
And a lot of them aren't worth your time, let's be real.
Right.
Yeah. I've completed games like Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Skyrim, and like a bunch of those, and a load of JRPGs, but I have to be very selective. I've got to pick one, play that, and that's the only one I'm playing for a very long time until I've completed it. It's another reason why I didn't touch Cyberpunk.
Western RPGs kind of came out when I wasn't playing games very much. So, like, I sort of missed out on them. If Horizon Zero Dawn counts as one, I guess I played that, but that's about it. Can't really.
Is it? I mean, I don't consider it one. It's a great game, but I consider it like a just adventure
like an
game.
open
almost.
world type of deal.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I love it though. I'm waiting for the sequel later
I'm
this
more
year. They said
interested in the sequel. Like once I hit the DLC of that, I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get more into it. At first, I was kind of like, open world
Frozen
for
Wild.
me was kind of like, I haven't really played a lot of open world games, so I was like,
Me neither.
I have to kind of. Just the format of open world, I just find the games are like kind of samey to me, which I don't know why, because like I could play JRPGs all day, and like how many more times can you go like kill a slime or whatever? But for whatever reason, with an open world game, it just I don't have the same
I think
attention
it's like-
span for it.
They don't have like enough levels of interaction with the open world games right now. Like they have these big, beautiful worlds, but like you can't do anything in them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's something it's like no algorithm's gonna fix it. You gotta have some dude that's like, okay, every mailbox in the game, if you shoot it like shoots, like old school Grand Theft Auto, like shoots out mail, or every window is breakable, or every pillar is. One game that I remember playing was Red Faction, and that had a really cool mechanic that like games should all have now, where you can destroy everything in the world. You have a rocket launcher, you shoot a wall, there's a big hole in the wall that you can go through, right? So like it opened up like strategy and stuff like that, but like also kind of made the whole world kind of real, because like, okay, like, I'm thinking about what the way that everything's laid out now and like how I can like cheat my way through it.
Yeah, there's a level of immersion that you don't get in a lot of the other open world games, like, and like depth to it and a little bit more realism in like a more good, like positive sense.
The artists and developers clearly have to make a sacrifice in between immersion and size. Because, I mean, you got to think about the hardware and what you're running on. So most of the companies will clearly have the specifications of, let's say, the PS5, because that's what the console they're made for. Then they need to be able to port it to PC. They don't care too much about PC as much, because usually they'll just put minimum specs and expect you to have them. Whereas nowadays they're making them for the consoles first, not the PCs. So their main goal is to make sure that runs on that console. So if you've got massive open world, there's a lot of textures, a lot of other things that has to be rendered, and they have to keep that in mind. And that's the issue, I think, with why you get these massive worlds without as much immersion. Because if, say, you blew holes in every wall, but then it stayed and didn't regenerate, that has to remember that. So then when you come back to it, it's like that.
Yep.
And I think that's the main issue with that.
Well, for like multiplayer games, yeah, that's why it's like super tricky. And then it also can ruin somebody else's game experience pretty easily as well.
More time consuming and more time spent in like development hell sometimes, like how some games take so long to come out, like No Man's Sky, when you guys said it probably should have been delayed like a few more months or a year. Cyberpunk also, but it's like these, the publishers, and they set a deadline like, well, we have to have it out by the end of the year. Okay, we'll put it out in December, even though it should probably actually come out in like May of next year. And then you wind up having to, they say, oh, well, we're just fix it along the way, so it'll be fixed by the time that it probably should have came out. But the people that actually are going on buying games are the ones that are suffering through this, fractured playthrough. When really, I mean, it's all comes down to, once again, we said the corporations and just they're trying to make like a quicker buck,
Yeah. And like your own decision on if you want to.
Yeah, if you really want to spend the money on it,
Yeah.
That's
I'm pretty good at watching, like, YouTube reviews are great. They'll tell you straight up what's up usually.
Yeah. I mean,
unless they get tricked, like in Cyberpunk's case, where they're like,
yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
Use
a
your
lot
own
of
footage,
the
guys.
game creating like publishers and stuff, a lot of them as well are not seeing as single player RPGs as profitable, even though they clearly are. They're seen as they're not. I mean, literally, EA made that massive statement before they brought out, Fallen Order, and they were hoping Fallen Order would fail. I'm pretty sure, just to prove that single player games aren't as profitable as multiplayer games at the moment. But clearly, that was completely
Which game
destroyed.
did you say?
Fallen Order.
Fallen.
Jedi Fallen Order, I think.
The Star Wars. Oh, that game was great. You said that it
That
did
game
it
was great. No, it did great. That's the thing. EA didn't want it to do great because they were trying to prove to everyone, including especially their investors, the single player games are not profitable anymore.
Nah.
Because they're all trying to. That's why you get so many multiplayer games. Among Us, Fall Guys, Fortnite, Battlegrounds. At the moment,
I would say so. Yeah, no, games as a service. Like if you can get people like coming back and spending money consistently, that's what they want.
It's
That's
more profitable, probably. I never was into like 9 out of 10 times I'm playing single player games solo, like by myself, because there's not that whole other aspect. I feel like more of the like broken games and whatnot are the multiplayer games because they're trying to focus on appeasing, such a higher. I don't even know how to phrase it. Because they have so much more to develop for, I guess you could say, and try to make it fit rather than like this is a single player experience. Like if you like it, you're going to get it. A multiplayer game, I guess I'm trying to say is if my friend tells me to try it out, I might be a whole different kind of player than they are. So they're trying to appeal to more of a wide grasp of people by making it a multiplayer game. So it winds up, I feel like, just having more bugs and issues because it would just naturally take longer, I feel like, to develop if they're trying to make it quality. You know what I mean?
The other thing with multiplayer games at the moment as well is a lot of the single player games are being forced to just have multiplayer campaigns in them for no apparent reason at all. Right. We're talking years and years ago, but I was a massive Dead Space fan, and they brought out Dead Space 2. That had multiplayer. Why? No one knows. And then
I didn't know that it did. That's a cool
idea.
idea.
Yeah, there's a multiplayer mode. It's one of you plays as the Xenomorph, and the others play as...
Oh, Alien Isolation, you mean? Not Dead Space?
No, Dead Space.
Dead Space has a Xenomorph?
I never played Dead Space.
Oh, not Xenomorph. Why did I say Xenomorph? Why did I say Xenomorph?
I don't know.
But yeah, Dead Space 2 had like multiplayer where one of you plays the monster and then one of you doesn't play, and then you just kill each other and the monster always lost pretty much because they were garbage. And then in Dead Space 3, there was multiplayer because they wanted you to play with 2 players, which was... I guess it worked with the story they were going for, but it was very unnecessary again. Right. And it killed the Dead Space franchise. That's why we have no more than 3.
Gotcha. So we're going to wrap up here. We're at our hour. We started late and we even made up the time that we were late for.
Right.
So do you guys want to do your plugs?
Yeah.
Do it.
Suppose I'll get started. I stream. Well, I haven't been streaming so much, but I think I'm going to be doing a stream of Ninja Gaiden for NES tonight on the Switch. Ooh. But throughout the week, I've been going back to the emulation thing, a ROM hack of Earthbound called Mother 2 Deluxe, which you can't play unless it's on an emulator. So
wow,
nice. There you go.
Something to bear in mind there. But you can find me at Mega Harv if you're interested in that sort of thing.
All right. I'm still streaming pretty much Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. If the schedule changes, I usually just tweet it. But you could follow me and find me, Idiomatic Entertainment on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. And on my second YouTube channel, Enigma's Nerd Talk, which I just mostly focus on, talking about video games, whether it's reviews or, top 10 list and just my opinions on gaming as a whole. And of course, make sure you follow me on Twitch because I love talking about video games and I love live conversations. Enigmatic Entertainment.
Awesome. Nadine?
You can follow me on my Instagram under Nadine _25. I'm also on Twitter under Nadine25. I make a lot of the videos for the YouTube channel because I don't actually have one anymore for myself. So if you keep checking the shorts now and then, I'll upload either my art shorts or I might do a gaming shorts, or I'm looking at other shorts that I'm working on. At the moment, they're not daily, but that's just because I've been quite busy at the moment. But hopefully they'll start being more of a daily upload. Yeah, that'll be literally all I have to say at the moment.
Excellent. And I am Fade Dragon Tier. I am not creating anything lately, really. You can check out my channel, Fade Dragon Tier. I have a lot of old videos that might still be cool. I don't know. For the most part, I'm just going to plug Nadine again. Check out the Serenial channel. Check out the shorts that she's making. A lot of them are really cool. So that is episode 3. We had a little bit of a rocky start there, but We'll see what's up next week. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys. We're the Serenial people.
See if I don't ruin the end stream. Like, think I ended the stream, but we're just still live, and we're just,
Exactly.
ruin it somehow.
Having a party.
I'm gonna
Technical YouTube difficulties.